Hello Australia and welcome to the BAP. It is the 18th of September 2016. We are broadcasting from the progressive bubble, which is not really broadcasting on a very progressive bandwidth. We're not even up to broadband levels of internet connectivity. But nonetheless, I'm Franco. Joining me are hip dudes Dean and Jason.
Hello,
We're
Franco.
hip dudes for once.
Because we're the ones that like to get down and Franco doesn't.
I was
Straight into the douchebag filter.
well, I was going to say I didn't appropriately prepare a witty insult for your introduction, so I just went down with a pleasantry that came straight off the rack.
And then
it threw us,
betrayal.
it threw us right off.
Yeah, this is so the Get Down is one of the things we recommended. We didn't actually recommend it on the show. I recommended to Jason immediately after the show when he was asking what's good on Netflix, and I said Narcos. I immediately forgot my current favorite series on there, The Get Down, which is only 6 episodes long. And it's this story of the birth of hip-hop and disco and graffiti culture in New York City.
It's very much a Bronx-centric
Oh, it's a Baz Luhrmann thing as well.
story, and it's great. It's
And Jimmy
fantastic.
Smits is in it. in
Jimmy
case anyone
Smits.
cares. And Jaden Smith, and he's not shit. And I don't care what anyone else says, that kid actually has some ability to act,
I've
apparently.
seen, actually, he's been not shit in a few things.
Such as,
Karate Kid 4?
he might be in shitty movies,
he is in shitty movies.
but he was not shit in them, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't even watched After Earth and stuff.
Yeah, he's actually pretty good. He's pretty good. And like as a physical actor and stuff like that, like because he did the Karate Kid remake, he's fantastic
Never
in
seen
that
it.
as well.
Why would they remake The Karate Kid? That's up there with remaking Total Recall.
Jackie
and
Chan
RoboCop.
needed a job, I think.
Why would you do it? The originals are fine.
To be honest, the Karate Kid 4 could have been something good, but anything that Jackie Chan touches is soft family shite. And he brings that to the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
They almost went a little bit edgy with the sort of backstory of the Jackie Chan character, which was a bit of a dark, I think it was drunk driving, blah, blah, blah. But then, as per usual, but it is a kid's movie, small, kids focused.
Mr. Miyagi in the first one spent time in an internment camp during the Second World War just because he was Japanese. That's kind of dark.
True.
That's acknowledging America's dark history of concentration camps.
Exactly.
Something they like to overlook these days.
So anyway, Get Down.
Get down. Now, for me, you
segue,
brought
bitch.
up 3 very important points. Baz Luhrmann, Jaden Smith, and
Jimmy Smits.
And that's like a scale of excellence. You start at the bottom with Baz Luhrmann.
Why
get
do you
into the
hate Baz Luhrmann
intermediate
so much?
part of Jaden Smith, and then the excellence of Jimmy Smits. Jimmy Smits brings the awesome.
Oh, see, I've seen
Jimmy Smith's in that show. I actually was going to befriend him on Facebook or his media company or whoever his representation is on there just so I could post. I'm watching The Get Down. This is clearly your best work to date. You're amazing.
I have seen Jimmy Smith suck in things like The West Wing and that.
Star Wars episodes 1 through 3. Not his fault. The movies were shit, and everyone's Natalie Portman phoned it in for fuck's sake.
But why the hate for Baz Luhrmann, Franco? Is he
I don't know. I've never really
Romeo
liked
and
his stuff.
Juliet? I liked.
Romeo and Juliet was great.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Romeo.
Moulin
and Juliet.
Rouge, I thought was good. It wasn't one of my favourite ones, but I thought it was good. What else is he? What else is a big Baz Luhrmann?
Off the top of my head, I
I
have to have
can't
no
think.
prep on this. But I think The Get Down is just great. It's 6 hours of Baz Luhrmann at his best. Like The way
Priscilla.
Priscilla Queen of the Desert. Again, amazing.
No, that's a good movie. I did enjoy Priscilla Queen of the Desert. I think I need to give it a bit more of a go because we discussed this off air, and my biggest gripe with the first episode of The Get Down was the labouring of relationship development.
I think they're just trying to set up all the relationships. Like by the 6th episode of that show, you just want more. Like it gets better and better and better and better and better, and you just want more and more.
I'm up to about episode 3, and I agree so far.
Well, see, I think the first episode is an hour and a half off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
Yeah, the first one's long.
And
was
it's
long.
long. You're waiting for something awesome to happen. There's like little samplers of awesomeness coming, but you're just waiting. And then at the
The
end...
scenes in the disco were pretty good in that first episode, I thought.
Yes, but that was pretty much, 60 minutes in before you even got there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then finally, right at the end, it's like awesome. And then you're wondering if that guy's a pedophile and who's grooming.
Which guy are you talking about? Shao.
He's the guy that had to get the record.
Yeah. Shaolin had to get the record. And it's
Where
gone down the flash.
does a pedophile angle
Wow.
I
come
didn't
from?
get that angle. You were watching a different show to me. Did you maybe fall asleep at the last sort of 10 minutes out the end and then you started dreaming about crazy pedophile?
Wake up while some other show was on.
An adult hanging out with teenagers.
Yes. Yes, this is true.
But I have said, I presume
I don't
that's
know.
not
I got the
direction
feeling
they're going with that.
in the subsequent episodes, Shaolin's not that old himself, kind of thing.
He does get... he's not. He's a young kid. He's from the wrong side of the tracks. He's a bit poor. He's a bit down on his luck. And he does shit for money that he probably shouldn't do.
He does some pretty heavy lifting, doesn't he?
He really does. So you kind of feel for the kid throughout that. You feel.
No,
heavy.
it's worth it, Franco. Go back for a second chance.
I will. I mean, the show definitely has legitimate bona fides.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon it's going to be really good.
Okay,
And-
so the soundtrack. This is one question I got. The soundtrack is that actually playing tracks from the time? Because I heard some that have obviously either been re-released more recently.
Yeah, no, it's same for me. There's some bits where they play more modern songs, as far as I'm aware, than they
So
should.
they're not actually contemporary. They're our contemporary and not.
Yeah, I think it's also Baz Luhrmann making it like blending it in in, making it sort of
Okay.
things that people can relate to.
In that case,
at times. But I mean, obviously, disco
I'm
and
feeling
dance
a
music
little
are really
less impressed because some of the I heard a couple of tracks come up and I go, oh wow, did that come out back then? And
but it may well have.
It may. I'll have to check
and
it.
I
I'll
just
have
don't
to
know.
do my homework on it.
I mean, like for example, movie-wise, I didn't know Ocean's 11 was a remake from 1963. I didn't know that.
Oh,
I
I only
did.
found that out recently.
So
Well, I'm just saying, like, so if it's far back enough,
it's okay.
you
It's
don't
okay, Dean.
realise.
We just need a new host. That's all.
Well, you need two new hosts. Frank doesn't let it get down, and I didn't know about Ocean's 11 being a remake, which is terrible. The other piece of douchebag-filled news, I have two more pieces. Jason and I went and saw the Louis Theroux My Scientology movie on Monday night at the Luna.
That was fantastic.
It was pretty damn good. Like, Louis is just the way he does this naivety and asking questions and giving people rope.
Yeah,
And
giving
very few people notice what he's doing.
Giving
until it's
people
too late.
rope is might be as simple as him just sitting there and looking at them.
Yeah, with the
waiting.
silence. There's a couple of awesome bits where it's just like Louis sitting there silent, and it pans to the other guy who's silent, pans back to Louis silent, pans back to the other guy who finally cracks and says something.
It says something, and that's what Louis is waiting for.
Yeah.
No, that was terrific. That movie. That's, and so funny in places.
I was blown away by just how hostile the Church of Scientology was from the get-go. Because there were a few points where Louis was like, do you want to talk about this? Do you want to have a commentary? I'd really like to interview you guys. And yet they continue to put up this ridiculous facade. And they don't seem to realize the reach modern media has. Like, you might be able to get away with that in the 80s and the 90s when there was no internet, when things weren't like going viral. But having them at their worst on this documentary is just bad for them. Even though the guys that Louis is working with are clearly also troubled.
Well, actually, I won't give anything away because that was an interesting twist.
Yeah.
The way that came together at the end.
Yeah. It's a really good story.
Without giving anything away, Louis apparently spent about 3 years trying to make a documentary about Scientology and could not get them to talk to him at all.
Yeah.
So his premise is he's going into it. He's going to recreate scenes. He's hiring actors. He's going to recreate.
And so the Church of Scientology gets word that he's hiring actors to play David Miscavige and
Tom
now.
Cruise.
And then they start sending people down to deal with the situation and lawyers and stuff. And it's really interesting to see what happens.
And the letters that come out, the letters they write to him, it was brilliant.
That documentary was many years in the making because it was a documentary apparently he didn't really want to do because most of his documentaries, the people willingly participate.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to do a hatchet job on the Church of Scientology. He didn't want to make it a judgment on the validity of a religion or something. And that's his style. It's more about these are the people, these are their ideas.
He wants them to tell the story and not.
Well, he makes it about the people, not.
Yeah, well, there's even a point where he's talking about the Church of Scientology and he asks the question, is it a cult or is it just an actual church that has just been taken over by a madman? Because the general people who are going to the church, they seem fine. It's not them. It's the establishment that running the place. And maybe it's like, these people, they love the church, they love everything it stands for, but it has been corrupted. And what do they do?
Well, hold on. Wasn't it founded by a corrupted force?
Founded by a terribly shitty science fiction author.
Yeah.
He wasn't even a good science
So
fiction
didn't
author.
he set the tone for corruption? And
Well, no, when David Miscavige took over when L. Ron Hubbard died,
Yeah.
and it's under him, it seemed to have gone a bit.
Okay, there is some urban mythology, and I'm not entirely sure of the validity of how true it is, but it was something like L. Ron Hubbard created the church on a bet. Almost, it was like someone bet him you couldn't manufacture a church successfully or something like that, and he went, I can do that, and that's it. And that's how he created the Church of Scientology because there's no basis whatsoever, and he didn't even really. I mean, he was talking about thetans and things like that, but he never came up with how he found out about those things. This is just stuff he just stipulated.
is that is the case, or is that an urban myth?
No, that bit's the case. He just created it out of whole cloth, absolutely. Whether it was created on a bet, I'm not entirely sure.
What do you think about Joseph Smith and the Mormons? Do you reckon he just made that shit up, or Well, I'm just like in general. I feel like a lot of times when British people, like Moses comes down from mountains, like I got these 10 stone carved tablets.
Absolutely, it was. But that's why the bet. That's
Ain't
why
no
the
proof.
bet angle sort of rings true. It's
How
like
do you know no one bet Moses?
it's entirely possible.
I'll let you know on the secret, Dean. Most religions are based on,
What is
you
this?
know, a disturbed individual making stuff up.
Well,
Yeah,
they
this is
tend
my
to
belief,
reflect the patriarchy that they've been created to support too.
Oddly, oddly, slavery's cool as long as it's from a foreign tribe.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah,
for
no
you
problem.
guys, I can give you a recommendation. Since you enjoyed the Louis Theroux documentary, Louis Theroux was on the Joe Rogan podcast
I watched
this
it.
month.
Really?
I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he
When you
gives
said
a
it was on there, like a 2 hour, like I don't like Joe Rogan that much,
Yeah.
but 2 hours of Louis Theroux
Yeah.
on there was pretty good.
I'm gonna have to watch this.
Yeah,
it's good.
it's worth it.
Because it gives you a bit of background of why he did it, what his angle was going to be, his trials and tribulations. He talks a lot about the Church of Scientology documentary crew. I'm using my air quotes
Quotation
here,
figures,
following Louis Theroux
Yeah.
interactions.
Actually, I think I'm.
That is, there's a few scenes with him in the movie. It's beautiful.
He goes like, so Louis got a camera with him at all times. So
Yeah.
he's like, why are you filming me? Who are you? What's going on? These people are just trying to run away. Get away
Yeah.
from
As they're running away, he's like, I just want to talk.
The only person
Can we-
that
can we
can
just
turn
talk?
the tables on people like this is Louis Theroux.
Yeah, it's beautiful. He doesn't mind being on camera. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm always on camera. What am I- That's not a thing. I'm not scared of this.
I like how he kind of forgot that they had the camera and he was asking the cop, hey, do you mind that they're filming you? And he goes,
Yeah.
well, you're filming me. He goes, oh, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and the other one more piece of douchebag filter news I have is also on Netflix. There is a show called Housos, which is pretty much half the cast who did Fat Pizza. Actually, at least 3/4 of the cast so far, and it's amazing. It's set in a housing estate in New South Wales, and it's people who live off the dole, but it's the same tone as Fat Pizza, and it's just awesome. Both
I'm
in
not
Australia.
sure
at its
that I'd
finest.
like it then because I didn't really get into fat pizza.
What?
Yeah, need a new host.
Oh my god, Habib.
I've watched episodes of Fat Pizza and Housos, and there's hits and misses. Sometimes there'll be moments you just go, that's classic, and other moments you go, lowbrow.
Yeah. Well, it's lowbrow. I'm not gonna lie, but Housos is fantastic. I've been watching it this morning. I'm loving it.
Then again, it's lowbrow, but have you seen the people that are living housing effect?
Yeah.
You know what the funny thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dean, because it's been a while since I've seen Housos. There's an element of The Simpsons in their storytelling. There's
Yeah.
almost like a little moral.
Yeah. And also his ludicrous stories and stuff get set up. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of beautiful. So it's look, I really quite enjoy it. So it's another thing on Netflix you can watch. Also, or SBS, I guess, when it was on SBS, or maybe on SBS on demand or something. That's me done for douchebags.
Well, that was kind of my douchebag as well, Louis Theroux and The Get Down.
I've lost my Netflix connection, so
Oh, ouch.
I'm not watching any TV at the moment.
Oh.
I lost
Well-
mine for one day last week, and that hurt. I didn't realize how much I was just not using anything but Netflix until it was taken away from me.
The one
that's
thing, the one
problematic.
complaint that I'm seeing from Netflix, not really a complaint on my part, but from Murray, is that there's not many BBC programs or anything like that on there.
Well,
it is mostly American.
There's like they've got there's a lot of British stuff on there. They've got Toast,
do?
Toast of London. They've got In Betweeners. They've got
I noticed the in between, isn't that? But
Black Books is on there. They've got, and the other thing about Netflix is interesting. The more you rate, like if you rate things you like,
it gets pretty
starts
good at
popping up to the
suggesting
top.
stuff.
So I watch Chelsea all the time. I keep rating Chelsea highly. I've now got this category, like the second category down. It's like movies with strong independent female leads, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Like it starts these categories that weren't even in the list before start bubbling up, and it's like, man, I'm liking this.
I need to start doing that. Well, I've found I'm sure that the ratings engine in terms of recommendations for yourself is great, but in terms of when you start looking for things rated great, you're going, yeah, there's some pretty dodgy stuff.
Yeah,
here
I
that
don't
thinks
agree with
I'm
their
high.
ratings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that is rated lowly, I really enjoy, and some of the stuff I see that's like 4 stars, I think is a 2-star.
Yeah.
Well, as we've established, Franco would easily vote down a Baz Luhrmann film.
Well, no.
And we would not.
Yeah, I put Get Down as 5 stars.
To be honest, I mean, I wouldn't put down my enjoyment of that. The Get Down wouldn't be reflected in how I rated it, because I can appreciate that it's very well done. It's an interesting take on that 70s period, and I would rate it quite highly, regardless of whether I enjoy the theme or not. I can appreciate.
I love the way that Netflix does, because they have these such small seasons of shows. They can greenlight stuff like the Baz Luhrmann thing, give them 6 episodes, and they can take risks. Normal television wouldn't have done that show.
No,
You
wouldn't take a bet on a 22 episode season on a Baz Luhrmann idea.
No, but doing 6 episodes and it worked really well. It's like, wow, this is I like the fact that I'm now getting to Americans adopting the British model of 6-episode seasons or 8-episode seasons and doing more little things and doing more experimentation.
And they seem to be like they might have done long seasons before. Now they're going, well, no, we've got a story that'll take six episodes or something like that, and they've just got an extended time to get their narrative arc out and stuff like that.
I also like the way I like the way their own stuff comes out. You can binge watch it, but I like the way they're doing other stuff now. Where, like with Chelsea, it comes out 3 shows a week, so it comes out Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and when the new Star Trek launches May next year.
But are her shows are coming out as they're produced?
As they're produced.
Yeah, okay.
So it's basically like Netflix they're trying different models now as well. It's like not just here's a season you can binge watch. It's like, okay, we got some slow drip content as well to sort of keep you around and keep you interested in things. And
what's Chelsea? Is that like Clinton?
Chelsea she's a stand-up comedian. She's got her own late night talk show. She gets it's like a panel kind of.
Yeah, she used to have a show on E! Called Chelsea Lately, which had a Latina midget and a bunch of other stuff in it. It was great.
Some really dodgy shit.
Really dodgy shit. And she's a bit older and wiser now, and now she's on Netflix and she's on a couch.
She's a hard drinking
comedian. And she's not embarrassed to share stories.
And she would get a panel, because I used to watch it when I was on Foxtel. It was one of the few good shows that was on there, and she'd get a panel, and there'd be a fair range of people on that panel, and quite often there'd be the guest comedian.
Yeah.
Usually, I don't know.
They still do.
So there's the guest unknown comedian. There's usually some right wing asshole that will just flare up various subjects, and there's normally very very differing opinions. So
yeah, I quite like it. And this on Netflix, she also does these every now and then. She has these dinners with people. So she had like a dinner with like a black Republican, a white progressive political author, a black gay activist, and then a white Republican. And it was just and they were all sitting around talking about politics in America and what's wrong with the country, but in a civilized way with all these different viewpoints. It was like, man, this is actually fucking. I wouldn't normally want to have Republicans around my house. I wouldn't normally want that, but this is interesting. And these obviously were Republicans who don't like Donald Trump as well, so they all had that.
Oh, they didn't like Donald Trump.
No,
okay,
they didn't like Trump. Some of them did think that Trump would be a better choice than Hillary, though. Which I thought was
perhaps now that her health is failing her and she's on death's door apparently, and
it's the interesting thing about Trump, and we're going to move on to the main news now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. The interesting thing about Trump is he just fires like a scattergun all these crazy ideas, and then sometimes shit sticks. Like he's like, well, who knows Hillary? Her health, it could be like anything could happen. Then the bitch gets pneumonia, and he's like, "Oh, fucking, I told you, I warned you about this. Like she's not fit for."
Has anyone ever heard of walking pneumonia?
Yeah,
I've never heard of walking
no,
pneumonia.
I only heard of it through the Majority Report.
Yeah, but I heard about it through there as well.
I've never heard of it.
What is this thing, walking pneumonia?
It's like sounds like Dead.
I wonder if it's an ailment we know as something else. So maybe it's
quite
an
possibly
American
what
phrase
like our flu that
flu.
we get, we call flu, which isn't really influenza or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
But so I mean, just to catch people up, Hillary Clinton was at a 9/11 memorial commemoration deal.
Yeah.
And it was a hot day, apparently.
Yeah, this was just after our show aired.
Yeah, and she then had to get taken. Like she was obviously suffering some ill effects, and was getting guided away to her black van.
Get her in the van, Terry.
And she stumbled a little bit getting in there, and basically almost passed out, kind of thing. So and everyone's making a big deal about it. Well, she didn't go to a hospital or anything like that. She went to
Chelsea Clinton's
Did you see Martin Shkreli was out the front of Chelsea Clinton's apartment hurling abuse at Hillary?
Yes.
No.
Yes, he was.
That was Martin Shkreli.
Martin Shkreli he showed up again. He was live tweeting as he was hurling abuse at her.
Look, I'm being an asshole.
Yeah. Like as if he's not a big enough asshole, he's out the front yelling abuse at her, trying to get her to drop out of the race.
So Hillary Clinton, they then said, like, to allay any fears and stuff, said, oh yeah, she was just a bit dehydrated and had walking pneumonia. I'd never walking pneumonia. What the hell is that?
Don't know. I don't know.
Apparently,
it's. I hate seeing Trump get points on the board.
Well, the Clinton keeps making it easy for him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, she keeps being secretive about stuff that she doesn't need to be secretive about.
And this is the problem I have with Hillary, because when you act secretive about stuff you don't have to be secretive about, it makes you look shady, like you have something to hide.
Absolutely.
And if clearly this isn't the thing you got to hide, but you're still being shady, so you must have something to hide. She's probably got nothing to fucking hide, but she's just shady about shit anyway. And I know it's probably hard.
Except the Clintons have had to deal with immense amount of public scrutiny through their entire lives. So
Yeah.
some of this reflexive paranoia
It
is kind of deserved in some ways. However, don't be president. If you have to be secretive, don't be president.
Yeah, it's odd. And
You know what
I think that she gets subjected to far more scrutiny than male candidates do as well.
Absolutely.
Like it's very clearly, it's hard to watch sometimes. Like, man, this the media treats her in a bullshit way.
But we've had our own experience here
But
with
at the
Julia
same-
Gillard.
I know, but at the same
she
time,
got the same treatment.
yeah, I feel like it's not like Hillary would not be expecting to be treated that way. I think it's bullshit. She is treated that way, but it's like she would expect this, and you should adapt to it, and then maybe not be so secretive.
But their immediate reaction to just about everything. So apparently she'd been sick for a few days, and it wasn't to say to anyone, hey, she's feeling a bit under the weather, blah blah blah. Probably because they're afraid that the news headlines will be "frail Hillary can't make it" or something like that. But rather than be open about it or anything like that, they don't conceal it. Something like this happens, and then they look shady.
Well, they probably thought they could get through it.
Yeah, obviously.
And look, there's no, you don't need to.
But was it Trump was talking about her cough and stuff
Yeah.
like that? Oh, the cough. There's something about that cough. It's serious. And then what do you know? 2 days later, she's falling over.
Look,
It
you
wouldn't
don't-
surprise me if Trump actually has some sort of insider spy person feeding information like Hillary might have pneumonia, and Trump's like, well, that's interesting because I can use that.
You don't need a medical degree to just put together a semblance of an idea of a 70-year-old woman doing more hours of work than I would probably do in a week in a day.
Yeah.
You know, the grueling, what it would take out of you to do a campaign. And she's working a lot harder than Trump, let's be honest, in terms of campaigning.
I mean, you may dislike Hillary in a lot of ways, but there's one thing you can't call her, and that's lazy. She's working really hard.
And my mother's not even 70, and she barely does an hour of active activity a day, and she's in reasonable health. And you've got to be thinking Hillary's doing 14-hour days at a minimum.
Calling those donors, spending a lot of time on the phone calling
Clinton Foundation
billionaires.
doesn't run itself.
That's right. and in fact, there was a slip up. What's his name? Harry Reid, one of the Democratic. He was a previous candidate in the primary for Democratic primary for president, but this was back in 2004. He was coming out, so he's being the Hillary surrogate, coming out saying, no, she's fine. She would be fine. And he was basically saying, I suspect it was just something minor. He didn't really know what it was at the time. But I know she was back on the phone to donors within, literally said, she was back on the phone to donors within an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah, we need some more money because the press now thinks I'm
yeah, so the slip up was she's back on. That's the important thing. She could be back on the phone to those donors.
I wonder how much time the presidential nominees have to spend ringing up donors. How much? Is it a daily thing?
I don't know what
half their day?
presidential. There's been a fair amount of time. I remember seeing some interviews talking about normal congressional elected officials and how much time they spend, and it's something like 8 hours of their day or something like that.
every day.
Almost every day. They have, and they were describing the phone pen that they'd go into.
Yeah.
And it was literally just phone banks, like, battery hen type situations. And your presidential aide, your congressional aide will come in and say, you sit down there, here's your list, you call every number, and they just call and call and call. And that's one of the complaints that progressive over there having is how much time their elected officials are having to spend just raising money without doing any actual lawmaking or governing or anything like that.
That is concerning, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what the solution is, though? You just make Mexico pay. That's how Donald handles his campaign.
God damn it, Mexico has to pay for everything.
Mexico pays. You ain't got to worry. He's going to call no donors. Mexico's picking up the tab. Don't worry about it. It's going to be excellent.
It's going to be fantastic.
Really? Well, so lads, did you feel the tremors of chaos yesterday in WA state news?
No.
Is this relating to certain ministers resigning from the front bench?
It is. Did you have certain thoughts you wish to talk about? Certain.
Oh, you
ministers?
go on. I made note of this because I thought it's been coming for a while.
It has. Well, maybe we can do one minister each.
Sure, there were two.
There were two. So why don't you do the first one?
Well,
Why
obviously,
re-
Dean Naldo was the first one.
No, it was Tony Simpson.
Oh, sorry, I was going to go because he's the one that's challenging for the leadership. It came out this morning that he's actually, not only has he resigned, he's challenging Colin.
Yes.
for the
Okay,
leadership.
guys, I don't know what you're talking about at all. So
Saturday
why don't you
morning-
tell
I'll
me?
go with Tony Simpson,
Yes.
right? And interestingly enough, is Naldo your representative or is he...
No.
Okay, well, he's close. So Tony Simpson is the Minister for the Darling Range. He's State Minister, obviously. He's also the Minister for Local Government, Community Services, Seniors and Youth. and he has resigned from the front bench of the State Liberal Party because he has no confidence in Colin Barnett's leadership and does not believe he will take them to a victory at the next election. Similarly,
Later that Saturday afternoon, Dean Alder, Minister for Transport, announced that he was resigning from the cabinet because he no longer had faith in Colin Barnett. And subsequently, today, he announced that
he intends to challenge leadership.
yeah, if a spill motion is passed on the Tuesday party room meeting, he will nominate himself as a candidate for Premier.
And Colin Barnett's also come out and said, look, I've still got things to achieve. I'm not willing to step down. He's digging in.
Okay.
Now, Dean Alder is a serial troublemaker, so this is not surprising. I mean, I did read somewhere...
He's also a bit... I don't think he'd make a move unless he knew that there was going to be a successful spill motion.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He's been agitating for change.
He has. He's been meeting with
So
private
you
people.
had
who've been
his meetings with other state ministers earlier in the year.
Yep.
You had the Mr. Poynton's survey released to selected ministers. And now finally this. And there were people saying, did Dean Alder and Tony Simpson coordinate this dual resigning from cabinet to force pressure on Colin Barnett to step down? And
So they're just resigning from cabinet, not from...
Yeah. They resigned from
And
front
what
bench.
my take on it is that Tony Simpson, on his own accord, went, "I've had enough. Don't want to have anything more to do with Colin Barnett. I'm stepping down." And Dean saw that as an opportunity. I'll resign at the same time.
Yeah.
We'll put more pressure.
And to be fair, I mean, a lot of research does say that Colin's very unpopular and he's not likely to be re-elected. But I obviously thought Colin would stand on his own accord and allow his deputy to take over. Liza, what's her name? Scafidi? No, Liza Scafidi, she's the mayor.
She's the mayor.
Yeah, someone. Which is just wrong. Yeah, so there was a lot of suspicion that Colin down himself, but he's not willing to. So I don't like stability is better, but I do like the Liberal Party rip themselves to pieces.
Yeah. Well, who's not to enjoy that? I mean, everyone wants a stable government. But
at
really,
the end of the day,
party politics,
the
will
best
let them shred
thing
each other.
for any party moving forwards is to do this privately, behind closed doors, don't involve the media, and make it look like a seamless transition, even if it's not. Like every time someone agitates like this and they go to the media and they're like, and Dean Alder's doing this now, but it happened with, to a lesser extent, Malcolm Turnbull did it to Tony as well, and obviously with Julia and Kevin. Why the fuck are you going to the media? Have a party room meeting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know whether does the media pressure add to it? I mean, maybe that's what they're after. Maybe they want them.
It must be, but it just damages you at the next polling anyway.
It's narcissism. I think there's the party and then there's personal brand. And personal brand comes before. They don't do things what's best for the party.
So who's the one who's challenging?
Well, nobody's challenged yet.
He will challenge it.
Right. What's his name?
Dean Alder.
What's his core brand proposition?
Just look, I don't want to read it. I'm just gonna, that's there for everyone to read if they're interested. I'm out. And then no one else knew. So when the journos were all calling his office to his staff to get commentary, the stalking idea their boss was resigning. When it was brought up she had not. Conroy was going. It's interesting. I mean, he's fought tooth and nail.
When did this happen?
Friday morning.
And there's been no clarification since, or
no? It's definite.
It's definite. He's done.
No, I mean clarification as to why or how or.
Oh, no, because he said he was just sick of missing his daughter's hockey training and stuff. Like he's just.
Oh wow.
He's in Canberra all the time. He's missing his family. He's not there for important stuff,
and at the moment, it really seems like he genuinely is missing his family.
Family
he's also not a fan of the extra media scrutiny he's had to justify or explain to his daughter about why people are shouting at him on the street.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because he gets recognised. People give him weird glances or they shout at him and stuff. He's not a fan of that. It's impacting on his family. He's decided to do the honourable thing, look after his family, and resign.
And look, probably the recent AFP raids have not endeared him to government service.
No. But they've endeared Stephen Conroy to me. Because every time the AFP raids, he's like, this is political bullshit. I'm claiming parliamentary privilege. Then they raid somewhere else, he's like, still bullshit. Parliamentary privilege. And the Senate keeps agreeing with him. So,
but, I mean, then you got to wonder how much pressure, that's the pressure we see. Parliamentary raids and things like that. What other pressure is he is he copping aside from people yelling at him in the street?
Well, it'd be pretty rough having the AFP raid your house.
That's what I mean. Having the AFP raid your house, and that's the stuff we can see. What else are they? What else is he being threatened with? You got a government that's quite happy to just use the AFP as their attack dog, kind of thing.
And might I suggest?
So what might they be doing without that isn't making?
Well,
the
he probably
media?
also had family pressures. His wife probably said, "What the fuck?"
Well, no, I get it, but the kind of stuff that ramps up to create that family pressure. What else are they driving at him with
Yeah,
that?
it's look, it's pretty sad. I mean, I don't like Conroy's from the right of the ALPs, like fairly conservative as far as they go in there. I'm not a huge fan of him. I don't think he was a good communications minister. I don't really agree with. Like he was one of those ones that was championing all of the
How long was he
internet
in?
filtering and the great firewalls and the tracking people's information. And
I mean, how long was he in office? He'd been around for a while, hadn't he?
20 years or something.
All right. So in other words, he's resigning to a very good pension, a parliamentary pension.
Allegedly, all things are pointing that he'll move into the private sector with all his connections.
But I mean, you get a pension
Yeah,
after you've
there's
been
that.
in 8 years, I think. Or
He
4
was
years.
probably hoping that. I mean, if you've been a part of the Labor Party and watching Bill Shorten,
yeah,
up until the last 6 months, you would have thought after this election he will bundle out. But since Shorten pulled the rabbit out of the hat and performed magnificently in the campaigning phase, as opposed to the previous 2 years of nothing.
Yeah.
Stephen Conroy went, well, Shorten's on the rise for the time being.
Yeah.
I can't wait around anymore.
Yeah,
and you would imagine though, Stephen Conroy would be one of the rights poster boys. Like they were like, if there's a change of leadership, maybe we'll push for Steve.
Exactly.
But interesting that he's resigned. Bit of a
Especially 2 weeks into a 6-year term.
shame. Yeah, he was one of the lucky senators who got the 6-year term, and he's noped out.
So who succeeds him?
We don't know yet.
Don't
Do they have a by-election, or
I believe they do, don't they?
I'm not sure. I don't know how it works.
or do they? Because
He's the next Labour person on ticket. I would think it would be an election, but I could be wrong.
I don't know how the Senate works in these scenarios.
This is a Senate, is it?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Senate
Then
seat.
I think he might. I think it might just fall to the next one.
Yeah, on their
in
list.
line- in the
Yeah,
list. Yeah.
I have a feeling that's what the case is.
Yeah. Speaking of senators, did you see the maiden speeches for some of our new senators?
No, but you did send me a news clipping about the
Hinchy?
One Nature guy.
Oh, no. Darren Hinch used his 20-minute opening maiden speech to present a 45-minute speech where he named 5 pedophiles.
God, that mouthy dick.
Yeah. So there's this pre-existing understanding amongst senators that you allow people to go on a bit more if they need to. And usually it's about 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. Hinch went for 45 on his first speech. He admitted after the fact it was probably a bit much. But he had to make this important point. So he used his parliamentary privilege to name 5 alleged pedophiles. Which
It took him 45 fucking minutes
the
to do
media
it.
are not publishing the names of. They're like, nah, it's not cool, man. But you can watch the speech online if you want.
So it took him 45 minutes to name 5 people.
It did. And waffle on. Shame, Darren. Shame. Pauline Hanson's maiden speech was pretty interesting as well. She took the time to warn that Australia was at risk of being swamped by Muslims who bear a culture and ideology that's incompatible with our own.
What, the incompatible with our Vietnamese culture that we adopted after they swamped us?
Hey, I'm a big fan of everything about it.
You know what I mean? I think there was... So by now we should have been swamped by at least 3 or 4 cultures by her reckoning.
Well, and now we're basically Vietnamese.
We're well-adjusted Vietnamese. I understand that.
Which I thought was pretty good. She also received hugs after the fact from several Liberal senators, which I thought was interesting.
Several Liberal senators.
Liberal senators, yeah. Certain people who maybe were happy to have someone like her in the Senate saying the things that they didn't want to have to publicly say.
Yeah.
Also, Malcolm Roberts is the one I did send around. He took his opening 20-minute speech to call for an OS exit to the United Nations and the IMF, labelling them as socialist, monolithic organisations that have no part in the modern world. I like people who just throw around the term socialist. It's like, he's a fucking idiot.
I like how the IMF is supposed to be
Socialist,
socialist.
yeah. Really? Socialist? Malco also took the time to compare himself to Socrates, saying that he just asked questions to probe the truth.
He's a gadfly.
Yeah, he's pretty special. He also took the time to praise Pauline Hanson, who, interestingly enough, throughout his speech was captured rolling her eyes several times and shaking her head.
Except for the bits where he praised her.
Yeah, and she reckons that when she was rolling her eyes and shaking her head, it was just because he was praising her, and she's not used to that kind of behaviour, and she's very embarrassed.
Oh, okay.
That's her claim. That's her claim. So that I thought was interesting. Malcolm Turnbull then was on the radio 3AW, and he labelled the One Nation leader's speech as not that great. It's pandering to extremists. He says that tagging all Muslims for the crimes perpetrated by a few is fundamentally wrong, which I thought was interesting for Malcolm to take a stand on anything at all. When pressed about Pauline's views explicitly, he responded that obviously he didn't agree with her. When pressed about comments that George Christensen made, which were very, very similar to Pauline Hanson's, the PM said, look, I think you'll find that he was talking specifically about a small group of extremists and people who hold extremist ideologies. So, interestingly enough, different brushes for Malcolm to paint people with. So, Pauline, tar and feather. George Christensen, don't have any tar left.
A nice dove blue.
Yeah, little blue. He's all right. He's just, when he talks, he doesn't specify as much, but clearly he's talking about a few people.
Clearly.
Not everyone. Clearly. George is a great guy. It's fantastic.
His lack of specificity means that he's obviously talking about that narrow group.
Yeah, obviously. What else could you assume?
ISIS. It's all he meant was ISIS. Never said it, but he meant
But, it's implied.
Can we swing back
It's implicit.
briefly to Darren Hinch and the use of parliamentary privilege?
Abuse of many.
Just want to give a hint to young fans of debating. If you find yourself in a situation debating with a right-wing conservative extremist, why Darren's use of parliamentary privilege to name alleged pedophiles could be problematic, don't even bother. Because you end up finding yourself seemingly defending pedophiles and you don't get to... And when you're arguing the more nuanced points of how parliamentary privilege might be being abused, in this case, falls on deaf ears, and you're seen as defending pedophiles.
Yeah, no.
Well, obviously you're defending people who are alleged of committing a crime.
Yes.
Right?
Well, no.
They're
These
not
are quite often
necessarily-
convicted, aren't they? And they've been released. Isn't that?
Well,
Isn't that?
And
problem
some
is-
instances he named these as well.
The problem is you're expecting
But-
someone from not representing the judiciary to make that call on their guilt or not guilt.
But also, when you start mentioning these people, some of them who have been charged, that induces trauma in the people who were abused by them, who are now worried that, oh my God, people are going to look up the stories about this guy and maybe see that my name's connected to this, and I'm going to have to fucking deal with all of this again.
It's
after
not
all
Darren
these
Hinch's
years.
place to be naming.
Yeah,
and
like
shaming,
don't like if someone wants to talk about the incidents that they've suffered through, let them
I
do
do
that
like
themselves.
Franco's point is well taken. You
As
end
I
up-
said,
No, you will wind up.
none of
yeah.
these points will
Which
get
is
you
why
any
I-
traction with these people.
which is
and
why
you're
I immediately
immediately
went
defending
to-
pedophiles.
so the
repeating the trauma on the victims.
This is what the middle class Australians that I've heard talk about this subject are more along the lines of name them. They should be executed. It's
Yes.
as simple as that.
Well, there you go.
It's like naming. They're getting off lightly by being named.
Or when you bring up the point of perhaps if Darren mentions someone who was innocent of these crimes,
Yeah.
and the response I get is more, what about the pedophiles? They don't deserve any. And it's like, well, we weren't talking about that, but
What about the
there's a
innocent?
yeah, exactly. But it's like, well, that's collateral damage.
Yeah.
It's okay when you're not the collateral damage. Everyone's quite fine spreading that
Well,
shit.
you come in the argument in US.
Hey, cluster mine's not a problem for me. Drop as many as you want. I'm not going to worry about the collateral damage. I can knock yourself out. White phosphorus ammunition, fine. Don't worry about it. Burn steel, no, don't worry about it. It's just collateral damage, not
It's
a problem.
our problem. Not our problem. Somebody else's
Yeah.
problem.
So I got one more story for the week. I don't know how many of you guys got.
I've just got one altogether. Dean, this has been Dean's show today.
These just all came up during the week. These are fantastic. So Rodrigo Duterte once again made the news. I don't know if you saw this, but he went on television to call for U.S. Special Forces to be withdrawn from the southern Philippines. There are around 1,300 special forces currently operating in the southern areas of the Philippines, fighting against terrorist organizations. Duterte wants them out. He has also suggested that he would like to see an end to the joint naval patrols undertaken with the US Navy, and that the Philippines should look to source their weapons from Russia or China.
Didn't he also call Obama something?
Yeah. That's another call.
Yeah.
So,
Which apparently someone had a technical defense for.
The whole issue of Obama's birth is problematic. We don't know where he was born. Allegedly, he was the son of a whore, which means we don't know who his father could have been.
We don't even know if he's black then.
Well, who can tell? You can't really ask that kind of a question.
So he
from
wants...
one side.
The US still have a base in the Philippines,
I
don't
think
they?
they've handed them back to the Philippines. I think the Philippines
Okay.
now run them. But they used to have bases there. They may
He used
still
to
have
have
bases
huge,
there.
huge bases there, but...
But Duterte wants to end that. When the Department of Defense, the US Department of Defense, was questioned about this, they described the Philippines as a long-standing ally, and they're not concerned by these statements. I'd be concerned.
With a potential conflict or with that particular area getting a
South
little
China
bit
Sea.
spicier
Yeah.
later.
I think if the Philippines start buying their weapons from China, all of a sudden they might not have a problem with China claiming ownership of certain islands that have been dredged up.
What the hell?
They'll be like, oh, hey, no, those islands are fine. The discount on AK-47 island, great place to go.
Yep. Duterte. He's going to be a constant source of news for the
He's
next...
the Duterte man. That politician is damn Duterte.
Damn Duterte.
He's a Duterte guy.
I think Trump will forget about it eventually, but Duterte may actually be around.
Well, because he got into power, so he's actually now doing crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting. Like the other thing that you got to bear in mind is if you start moving your country away from the American influence, sometimes you get assassinated. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to get assassinated, but those Second Amendment
you're right.
rights activists out there, maybe they'll take matters in their own hands.
It probably hasn't happened in some time, but yeah, there's definitely in the past it's been, hey,
That we know of.
well,
Well, I mean, there was the Turkish media suggests that the recent coup against Erdogan was
Could have been-
orchestrated by the CIA. Now, I think that's probably crazy, but it's not necessarily completely crazy.
no, it's probably not true, but it's not crazy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's probably inaccurate, but they have done it in the past.
Yeah, I know. It's the true September 11 is all about the Chilean disaster, which was
Yeah, they're known for it. They're known for overthrowing legitimate governments.
They've
if
got a
they disagree
history.
with them
They've got a history of the practice. I'm going to move off to something considerably drier, but I don't know. It was something that sort of piqued my interest because I've been looking around for where the possible end for this new recession that we seem to be slumping into, but the news just seems to be getting worse. So,
Oh, good.
in the last month, Korean shipping giant Hanjin collapsed and has gone into receivership.
Is he okay?
So-
He's the last of the giants.
He's not the last.
Okay.
Yeah, there's others. He's only the seventh largest. So
Oh, wow, there
there's
are other
obviously-
giants.
There's 6 giants bigger than him. So it's the seventh biggest container carrier.
In their subset, they're not really giants, are they?
Carries 100 million tons of cargo annually. Has 150 container ships and bulk carriers, and conducts 3% of all the 3% of all the container ship trade within the world. And it just recently collapsed. So it was a company worth $1.6 billion, and it owes $5.5 billion. So it's a little bit in the red. So
That's awkward, isn't it?
yeah, and a considerable number of its ships aren't even owned by it. It's chartered at the moment. So, so currently there's 400,000 containers stranded on Hanjin vessels around the world. So they're basically being held offshore in many places because they don't even have the money to pay the stevedores to get the stuff unloaded and stuff like that. This isn't the really serious thing. Most people think, even though it's a significant amount of stock that's being held up, and the knock-on effect could be quite significant.
How many of those are Samsung Note 7s?
I don't know.
Are at danger of exploding.
Are you?
Well,
I was just wondering, were you waiting for one? You could Samsung.
I'm not buying one. I am going to get one, but not right now.
You might want to wait.
They've been recalled. You can't
Oh,
get them.
really?
Yeah.
So it's now there's a considerable amount of stock being held offshore and stuff like that. There's even 2 ships off Melbourne that can't get in there, and there's companies in Melbourne that are kicking up and complaining about it because Patrick stevedores want to charge extra to get their own containers that they've already apparently paid for. But this isn't the real issue. Is it seems to be indicative of the world sort of container trade. Overall, it's been suffering through a recession where originally it was charging $45 per ton to transport containers, and it's dropped to as low as $5 per ton.
That seems unsustainable.
That's a bargain.
Yeah.
It's a bargain. You want to ship a lot,
Yeah.
$5 a ton.
No, I want to ship you somewhere for $5 a ton.
You get me for about.
What's it mean? You don't even
10
weigh a
cents.
ton. I'll put you in a container
cents.
that can hold a ton.
Can you send him somewhere for 10 cents?
Jason's going to be our roving field reporter.
So the problem seems to be is that Hanjin is not atypical as a shipping company, and its business model is not that different to anyone else. It probably was carrying more debt than some of the others, but they're all suffering through this downturn, and they're now currently. I mean, Hanjin's ships are being sold off at bargain prices, bulk ore carriers and things like that. They used to carry the ore from Northwest and that, but they're not using them so much anymore because we're not shipping as much ore. There were 200 container vessels being booked to be were made last year. That's down to 60 this year. So they're dropping off numbers of manufacturing and stuff like that. And it just seems to be they're waiting for the next penny to drop. Another one of these big giant shipping companies goes, and they reckon it starts causing a knock-on downturn effect for other industries and things
Maybe they've
like that.
decided they're too big to fail.
They did get a cash injection from the Korean government, but it was at like $33 million to be able to pay for some stevedores. It's not going to save anything, considering one ship costs like $24 million. So.
Right, yes. It's kind of like just pissing in the wind, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I found that interesting because it's been sort of building for the last couple of weeks, and I was just sort of watching it a little bit. And the fact that they're still waiting for some of these other companies that have had a momentary kick up because it's a contraction of their market a little bit. Sorry, the competition has been reduced a little bit, but they don't think it's going to live on very long. So the next step is that other companies might start falling over as well.
Do the liquidators seize the containers and their
Well,
contents?
that's one of the interesting parts is like depending on, because maritime law says even the crew can seize a ship if they haven't been paid.
Oh.
So crew themselves, the ships at the various ports of call, you've got people that are trying to seize the ships under their local law.
Yeah.
Even though Korea has sent it into what they call, it's the equivalent of Chapter 11, American Chapter 11. So they're meant to be able to just have the chance to try and get everything sorted out and restructure all their debt and everything like that. But you've got people in other countries where the ships are and where the ships are quite often owing money and can't even refuel to get back out. And they're the ones that are trying to seize the ships. And there was a case in America where federal agents actually stormed the ship stormed it. They went on board and seized it for the creditors.
Wow.
So, and this is happening
Why the fuck
pretty
were
much all
federal
over.
agents seizing something for creditors?
Sorry?
Why were federal agents seizing something for creditors? How were they involved?
I don't know. I thought that was odd as well. Where federal agents, I don't know whether it's FBI or whatever, but a federal agency is the one that went on there
Acting
to grab
on
it
behalf
for
of a
creditors.
private institution.
But I guess when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars, someone who runs a import export, I don't know, who has that kind of money, knows the person to call up and say, "Hey, you need to seize this ship." or something.
It's interesting. Like, well, obviously, even in our own government, they can call federal agents to raid Stephen Conroy's house.
That's right.
You just got to know the right guy. You're like, this is clearly it's a federal crime. Like,
Well, I mean, they've probably got a legitimate case too. They can take it to a judge and say, "Look, they owe this money.
but
There's
they
a
haven't-
ship
they
that's
haven't
worth about
yet-
that much."
They haven't yet done that.
But they could
No,
also...
but they have been. They
Okay.
have been entering legal.
But perhaps the items that were in the containers were deemed national security items.
True.
It's entirely possible.
I mean, those Samsung Galaxy Note S7s, dangerous leaving a container like that. They might all go up. Various other Korean produce. Who knows? Did you see that South Korea were talking about potentially launching preemptive strikes against North Korea?
No.
If shit was going to if they would continue going to undergo nuclear tests.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that.
But what are they going to preemptively strike with?
Artillery.
Okay. I was just wondering
Conventional
whether they were
weapons.
claiming to have some kind of nuke.
No,
as
no.
well.
They've just got a fuck ton of conventional weapons already.
If
aimed
you
at them.
guys keep testing your nukes, we're going to fire some guns at you. I don't know. It just seems like that possibly is a little bit of a mismatch.
I just thought it was interesting because it was like, yeah, okay, I get because I mean there was an earthquake in South Korea. There were aftershocks from a North Korean weapons test, and then like a week later there was an earthquake of similar magnitude. So I don't know if North Korea is continuing to fuck around.
That must be serious because, I mean, the capital of South Korea is within artillery range of North Korea.
Yes.
It is. But, I mean, they would have done more planned and would have considered solar write-off.
Yeah.
And North Korea has a very limited nuclear...
It's a lot of people to
That's
just...
it's a pretty big, like, well, let's just assume we lose Seoul. So moving from there,
But, I mean,
You know what I mean? There's a big cost to that. So them making
True.
this blustering like this is...
well, but again, I mean, North Korea, what are you going to do? No one else seems to be wanting to get involved because it's going to be a humanitarian mess. But I mean, I imagine if you were Japan or South Korea, potentially even China, I still think China's going to be the one that will eventually invade. They're like, you're right, he needs to go. We'll take care of this. We need to keep this buffer state here, but we'll get rid of him. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. China, do your homework, for God's sake. They're your satellite. They're your little puppet government. Sort that shit out.
But you see, it'd be interesting because China's getting a bit of flack at the moment these days for flexing their military muscles. Taking those islands South China Sea. Maybe what they'll do is like, all right, we'll take.
Isn't that
care
amazing?
we'll-
China
we'll
gets
take care
flack
of
for
North
taking
Korea.
a little South Island.
Yeah, we'll take care
America-
of North Korea, but these are our islands, okay? These are ours, and this is ours.
I just like that. Yes, China gets a little bit of flack for building air bases on some spratly islands in the middle of South China Sea, and America's drone bombing other nations.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, I mean, not exactly.
Drones don't kill people, Jason.
I mean, they're both, criminal acts. I mean, you got to look at it in the context for the South China Sea issue. Basically, China said, it's all mine. You other countries that think you've got maritime rights? No, you don't. It's all ours.
Yeah. But I mean, at the
It's
same
not
at
just
the end of the
America.
day, I mean,
You've got 5 different other countries that have a stake
Well,
in
America
this.
doesn't have any claim to them. They're just sticking their nose in there for the
Free
hell of it.
navigational rights.
but you got to understand, most international law comes down to, and I back this with my military.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we have these conventions in place, but at the end of the day, it comes down to someone's willing to back this with their military.
But it's interesting now that you've got a nation like China who have their own drones and can start doing that reciprocating kind of warfare where, oh, you drone that country, well, we're going to drone this country or something.
And that is the big question. What's going to happen to world drone policy once other countries can actually drone?
Is there going to be a moratorium on droning or something?
You would hope so. The thing about drones that scares me is it's just a little too much like Terminator. Like right now, they're controlled by people.
Yeah,
But it's a little close to like flying robots equipped with rockets that are murdering people. It's a little too Terminator for me.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "No, it's fine. Don't worry about it, dude. It's not. I'm going to worry about this."
They've already, the American military has already talked about. There was a presentation done where they were talking about AI being in charge of military armaments and weapons, and someone's raised the question about, don't you find that concerning? He goes, well, there's always a human somewhere in the decision process.
Yeah. Good.
Somewhere in the decision process, there is a human that makes a choice as to whether to kill that person. But it strikes me as not very difficult that that human eventually gets removed.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I mean, I know South Korea again. They've got a lot of, particularly I think it's Samsung because they're a massive company, do all types of things. They've got a bunch of military hardware assets and stuff. I think there are sentry guns on the border, which are essentially
Samsung.
robotic. Yeah, Samsung weapons. They make weapons. And I'm pretty sure there are sentry guns along the border of the demilitarized zone that are pretty much just automated. Like if something gets in range, they're just going to...
What's next? Toshiba tanks?
Who knows? I don't know what Toshiba does. They may actually have... Like, Samsung make fucking, like, military-grade, like, rocket launchers, like, missile launchers, like trucks with the fucking things on like, big, heavy weapons. In addition to consumer hardware and phones and wonderful televisions. My TV's great. Samsung. Maybe it's got a missile.
If the control interface of their rocket artillery is a Samsung tablet, game over.
Have you tried to see if there's a back?
Well, I'm pretty sure the warhead is actually a Samsung tablet.
Have you tried to hack your TV to see if you could get into those armaments on the South Korean border?
Are they running Android?
It could have the Internet of
My
Everything
TV
on
does,
it.
so it's AI. It's an Android. It's powered by it. It's fantastic. That's all I got.
The final segment is BAP lifestyle. We've not had a BAP lifestyle section in the past. Probably won't have a BAP lifestyle section in the future. But today, BAP lifestyle.
With a clap.
With a clap. I am fascinated by asbestos. How that industry was allowed to continue on for so long and still continues in some countries when we know it's bad shit. Causes so many problems we're still dealing with, and we continue to introduce that problem. However, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritties of the finer details of asbestosis production, but rather Australia's only blue asbestosis mine, Whitnoon. So that's a northwest town. You probably haven't heard of it because it's no longer a town. It was de-gazetted in 2008.
Is that because everyone died from asbestos?
De-gazetted?
Yes, so basically when you want to remove a town from your town planning scheme...
It's a nice word, isn't it? We de-gazetted the town. What does that mean? Don't let me de-gazette you, Jason.
So actually, it was a company town. The mine was 10 miles away, but literally it's a contaminated town. So I think mining ceased there in the late 60s. And from 1979 onwards, the West Australian government went through a process of trying to decommission the town, basically. So not encouraging people to stay, bulldozing people's houses as they left. The town for many, many years had asbestos tailings as their roads. They did seal them with bitumen. But there were lots of studies done to see...
Yeah, that's not enough, really, is it? Like, it's all right, we see it with bitumen. I'm going to move.
There were studies done to see if it could be decontaminated, and it was decided it is way too effed in the A to clean up this town. It's literally just...
well, they couldn't guarantee...
Asbestos fibres are everywhere in that place. Yet, people still insist on living there. So in 2007, as a sign saying where private and public companies will not allow employees to go into Whitnum without wearing full protective clothing and a respirator. Yet, as of today, there are 3 residents who still insist on living there.
Does Australia Post deliver to them?
No.
They weren't in Australia Post there. The police probably wouldn't come there without credits. And you're like, you know what? I got to hide out somewhere. Whitney.
No, well, I mean, I'll get back to that. I mean, no, not quite. The government made attempts to buy them out. They refused for various reasons. Money wasn't enough, or in many regards, that seemingly ghost towns scattered.
Look up where Whitney is. I don't
Mate,
have.
wait, it's Diggs.
Oh well, let's see if Google.
Of MC.
It didn't talk about.
I'm going to change that.
These three individuals had very opinions on how grave a threat it was. They did know it was an issue. I think in their mindset, if it hasn't killed me yet,
But like trying to decide if it was 1 foot in the grave versus I'm 3/4 in the grave.
well, they were. Yeah, I suppose they have a mindset of, wow, it's long here. I mean, I like living here, which is strange because there's no power.
This is where I'm going to
I'm
come
not
down
sure
on-
about.
If someone's explained all the risks to you and you still want to live there, fucking fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like it's even nanny states. Yep, sure, live there, fine. You're gonna die. But you're gonna die wherever you go.
There's a whole bunch of streets and about 10 houses.
Well, the place had a population of 20,000 at one stage when it was a fully fledged mine. It was one of the largest towns in the northwest back in the day. But yeah, as I said, from 1979 onwards, they just started bulldozing houses because they didn't want to encourage new people. I think there's only 5.
Did they? Were they like hermetically sealed bulldozers? How do you even keep the asbestos out of the dozer? Because those fuckers get warm inside them as well. Like you can't even have air conditioning.
Well, the
on.
individual will wear protective clothing, and when they bring the bulldozer
respirator
out,
inside.
they clean it out.
That's fucking. That'd be expensive though.
Contamination
Like,
station.
because you only go in there to bulldoze a house when someone moves out. So it's not like you can go in there. Maybe you can get 100 houses in like one stint or whatever. But like, as it goes on now, and you're getting people out like 1 or 2 at a time, you send a bulldozer in.
Well, all the buildings have gone, bar the handful that are left.
It's a pretty desolate area to live in by yourself.
The government did try and legislate them
Yeah.
out of there, but for whatever reason,
But the cops wouldn't go in and get him out because they went, fuck that.
Sorry, dealing with Stephen Conroy is a bigger threat to the nation. Right now.
I think some of the reasons why that legislation didn't pass, even though the legislation was going to be targeted for Whitney, I think people were afraid that you one
Thin edge of the wedge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I'm not convinced. I don't like eminent domain. Like, I don't think the government should be able to force people out of private land. That's not cool. I get that it's okay, you build a highway, but fuck it. Like, make it a deal with the guy. If you can't, build it some other place. Don't sell them the land in the first place. You can't just seize private property. That's not right.
So would you get up in as a danger zone tourist? Would you wear the garb and go into the town?
Yeah, I would. There's a guy that went into Chernobyl. Like, he went
Yes.
in there with like protective clothing on and took photos and stuff of all that. I reckon that'd be cool as shit.
Yeah.
I'd do that. I'm not sure of the risks I'd be undertaking invoking a consumer grade radiation suit and hoping that it works. But that kind of abandoned towns and stuff, that kind of photography when people do urban exploration is kind of cool. Asbestos, yeah, it's a little easy to know that your respirator is good, I guess. So it's not. So
It would
bad.
be an interesting town to go and check out. There's a book I read.
Except there's only 10 buildings left now, so.
Well, yeah, but there's an interesting book I read which was When We Go Away or something. I can't remember the name of the title. Basically, it was what happens to places when humans just leave that area, and it was a really interesting examination of the few places where that's happened.
There was another.
And Whitney would be an
There
interesting
was a
one.
blog again. There's a guy who went into Fukushima in Japan recently. Went into the red zone there and took all these photos of like all the abandoned like shopping, like these shops, and the 7-Elevens, and like, just crazy stuff. It's really interesting stuff. Like,
If you want to see a kick-ass one of those, there's an island in Japan where they used to do coal mining. I think it was coal mining, some sort of mining, and then the mining became unviable. But it was a small island, so say like the size of Rottnest Island, which is I think 6Ks long and 1K wide. So it's not a big area, but they'd built up, and it was a fully fledged city on a small thing for this mass production of, I can't remember the mineral. They did one of the recent James Bond movies there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so that was a fully functioning city, and now it's just ghost town.
It's interesting.
That was an interesting
What
scene.
kind of animals lived on that island beforehand?
I have no idea.
I'm just curious to see what would be the dominant species now. It'd probably be cats or dogs, one or the other.
Probably.
Rats.
Maybe.
Okay.
And on that note, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the show. I've been somewhat mediocre, Franco.
I've been fantastic, Jason.
I've just been Dean. It's been a pleasure having you all along for a little chat.
Au revoir.